Imagine a future where excellence is your daily routine, a future imprinted with your legacy, where you meet your targets with precision. That future begins with your first step into the National University. With facilities designed for professional practice, we aim to equip our students with the necessary skills and techniques to become leaders in the industry and top-notch professionals. This is what we see for the future. This is where we see you at the National University. Your future is our present.
Envision the future within your fingertips. In every line of code, excellence unfolds.
National University College of Computing and Information Technologies develops leaders in various fields of industries, developing professionals that provide software solutions in emerging technologies.
Apakukoa, Level 2 accredited college, and a Center of Excellence in Information Technology as awarded by the Commission on Higher Education.
Backed with a dedicated lineup of faculty equipped with experience and postgraduate degrees, fully engaged in research, and immersed in the industry.
CCIT is the major contributor in a new Scopus Index in terms of refereed Scopus Indexed conference and publications.
CCIT has produced student champions, which have proven their competitiveness in national competitions. They are developed to be competitive, holistic, achiever, multi-dimensional, productive, industrious, outstanding, noble and savvy student champions.
BSCS and BSIT. The College of Computing and Information Technologies 2019. Education that worked.
Access denied.
Great job!
Amazing!
Neat job!
ACM Women's of Asia Pacific supports, celebrates, and advocates internationally for women's full participation in all areas of computing, supplying ACM participants with a range of initiatives and resources, and collaborating in the border sector to advance the efforts of technical women. Join ACMW's celebration that aims to bring together women from industry, education, and research to share ideas and experiences.
We care for your digital well-being. Please close your eyes for about 20 seconds. Let me count it down for you. 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now open your eyes and please focus on an object, preferably 20 feet away. Thank you. Now, let us continue with our event program. The program will begin in a few moments. Meanwhile, a few places in the host country Philippines. Due to enforcement of strict quarantine protocols in Metro Manila, this is a recorded event. Inspiration and admiration starts.
From here in Manila, Philippines, to all our participants from different parts of the world, we would like to greet everyone, mabuhay! Welcome to ACM Women in Computing Asia Pacific Celebration 2021.
First and foremost, let us introduce ourselves. I am Joseph Marvin Imperial, faculty member of the Computer Science Department of National University Manila.
And I'm Midet Abisado, also from the Computer Science Department of National University Manila.
We will be responsible for hosting this day's event. We would like to thank you all for joining us today for this very special virtual conference. We hope that you are all physically and mentally healthy during these challenging times.
We are excited because this is the first event organized by the newly formed ACM Women Asia Pacific Committee in association with National University Manila, Philippines and the Computing Society of the Philippines Special Interest Group on Women in Computing. Today's celebration aims to bring together women from industry, education, and research to share ideas and experiences in transforming computing towards a future that we want to build. We have more than 300 registered participants from countries all over the world, such as Australia, Bangladesh, China, India, Japan, Kenya, Philippines, and the USA. We hope that everyone will stay tuned in today's celebration.
This inaugural event will feature presentations from prominent women who are researchers, educators, and professionals in the computing field in the Asia-Pacific region. We have a lot in store for you, so here is what you will expect for today's celebration. We will have valuable keynote speeches from various distinguished women in computing. We will have research paper presentations, and we will have an after-plenary event at the end.
In addition to that, we will also be awarding the ACM Women in Computing Rising Star and Shining Star Awards later. So stay tuned and let's enjoy this celebration together.
Participants, you may view the entire details of the virtual event at ACMWAP21 national-u.ph. And please don't forget to include hashtags ACM Women Asia Pacific 2021, hashtag Women in STEM, hashtag Women Empowerment, and hashtag Women in Tech for all of your social media updates. We want to make this event as memorable as possible.
Okay, so without further ado, let's get the ball rolling and start the celebration. Joseph?
We would like to invite the current chair of the ACM Women in Computing Asia Pacific region and a very active advocate for women and girls in STEM for her welcoming remarks and to formally open the conference. Professor Jacqueline Tate.
Hello and welcome. My name is Jacqueline Tate and I'm the very proud chair of ACMW Asia Pacific. Thank you all for tuning in from around the globe to our very first Association for Computing Machinery Women in Computing Asia Pacific celebration, transforming computing for a better future. As you may recognise from this slide, we're coming to you virtually today from our gracious hosts at the National University of Manila in the Philippines and the Computing Society of the Philippines Special Interest Group in Women in Computing. Today, I'm in Australia and I acknowledge the Dja Dja Wurrung traditional owners of the lands on which I present. I pay my respects to their elders and leaders past, present and emerging, and any Indigenous peoples joining us today, welcome. Today, we celebrate. We celebrate the women in computing across our wonderful and diverse region of Asia Pacific. Women from education, academia and industry. Women from Thailand, Japan, China, Bangladesh, Singapore, Australia, Myanmar, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, Indonesia and many more. We're able to come together thanks not only to the support of our organisations, but the individual efforts of so many amazing women. In 2019, Associate Professor Catherine Lang, supported by Professor Jodie Timms and Professor Rayan Afer, both senior members of ACMW, facilitated a workshop in China to establish an ACMW regional community. And here we are down the bottom. You can see Jodie and Rayan above us, which is quite appropriate. And Jodie is even behind us there, standing behind us, supporting us in this endeavour. The aim of the workshop was to identify, grow and support women in computing efforts in this region. To quote Catherine, at the conclusion of the two-day event, there was a sense of enthusiasm to explore regional events and celebrations. And here we are in 2021. Our regional committee has grown and we are so proud to be presenting our first event. So why are we all here, celebrating women in computing? Why do we need to transform computing for a better future? Well, according to a recent study, the Gender Gap in Science, a global gender study run in part by ACMW, women are more likely than men to report discrimination. Over 25% of women in science had experienced sexual harassment. Women in science were more likely to report lower salaries. Women were less likely to report positive relationships with doctoral advisors compared to men. According to UNESCO, only 30% of female students worldwide choose to study science-related subjects at university. Our response to the current state of affairs is to listen and learn from those women who are already transforming computing. Our themes today include increasing diversity in computing courses and careers, recruitment and retention of girls and women in computing courses and careers, encouraging students to consider computing in their future, computing for social impact and creativity, and initiatives that explore the contribution of computing to society. Following this talk, you'll be treated to a trio of keynote speakers. Firstly, Professor Ming Zhang from Peking University in China, discussing her work on graphical representation learning in drug discovery. Next is Frey Sangil from industry. She's a founder and CEO at Layer-Tech Software Labs. She's going to discuss humans versus automation, designing and implementing automated mechanisms with unpredictable humans. And last but not least of our keynote speakers is Dr. Nova Ahmad, one of our committee members, and she's giving her thoughtful talk, Thinking of an Equal World. Following the keynotes, you'll have a chance to view our abstract presentations and posters. These have been submitted from across the region and selected for their relevance to our key themes and streams. Next, Rising Star and Shining Star Awards ceremony. I am unashamedly excited about this. It will recognise women contributing significant work and impact relevant to the celebration themes, which you've just heard. Today, Bimlesh will announce the winner of the Shining Star Award for a woman of eminence with over 10 years experience, and 4 awards for Rising Stars, women with 5 years or less experience in computing. And 1 extra award today. We must thank the Tech Girls Movement Foundation, who this year will support our International Impact Rising Star Award. Thanks, Tech Girls. Finally, you'll hear from our Celebrations Chair and 2020 Event Chair, Professor Rachel Roxas, whose efforts to celebrate and support women in the Philippines both predate and supercharge the ACMW Asia Pacific. We must also thank the hardworking chair of our technical committee, Professor Arlene Trelanes, who along with her team has built the event despite considerable challenges. Thank you. Last but not least, Dr. Bimlesh Wadwa, who has chaired both the program and awards committees. Thank you all. I really look forward to every meeting that I have with these amazing women. Once again, I welcome you to the ACMW Women in Computing Asia Pacific Celebration for 2021, Transforming Computing for a Better Future. Today, I urge you to listen, engage, ask questions, and reach out. If you're not presenting, think about how you can get involved. Can you present next time? Can you invite someone else to present? What do you want from us? This is just the beginning of the ACMW Asia Pacific. Come with us and be part of transforming computing for a better future. Welcome.
Thank you very much for your inspiring message, Professor Jacqueline. Now that the conference has been officially opened, I hope that everyone is now ready for the start of the keynote speeches.
We have a stellar lineup of speakers for this day with exciting topics ranging from graph representations, quandaries between human and automation, and many more. Ladies and gentlemen, you really don't want to miss this.
That's nice to hear, Medeth. I hope that the audience is as excited as we are to listen to the talks. And now, let us welcome the first speaker.
I believe they are Joseph. As our first speaker is an esteemed researcher and full professor at the School of Electronics Engineering and Computer Science, Peking University, China. She is also a member of ACM Education Council and the chair of ACM China Education Committee. With more than 100 research papers, she has made a significant impact in the fields of knowledge graph-based machine learning and graph neural networks, as well as applications in recommendation systems, online education, and health informatics.
Here with us to talk about graph representation learning for drug discovery, ladies and gentlemen, we have Professor Ming Zhang. Professor, the floor is yours.
I would like to introduce our recent work, research on graph representation learning for drug discovery. Actually, I'll introduce two papers. One is a clear paper to 2020, and the other one is ICML 2020 paper. We know that CNN is typically for fixed size image grids, and RNN or vector vector is for text and sequential data. But for graph, the graph representation learning is very hard because it's much more complicated. And you can see that the graphs have complex topographical structure and no fixed node ordering or reference point. So, and also it's dynamic, and the graph data have some multimodal features. In my group, one of my former PhD student, Tang Jian Tang, he's now a professor at Mila, Montreal University. He published two papers and proposed two models. One is line at Triple W 2015. This paper is the most cited paper in recent 5 years for Triple W conference. Now we have more than 2,700 citations. And the other one is large ways. It's published in Triple W 2016. So we have very efficient graph representation learning model. So it's kind of a large information network embedding. So it's kind of embedding. And nowadays, we know that GPT-3 is a very good generation model for NLP, and it can do a lot of amazing things. That's very creative, and we know that also GLOW for image generation, it become better and better. Nowadays is almost we cannot. This is totally created by computer, but it's really like a true picture, true human face. So to the drug discovery, we generate some new drugs automatically, and so we can save time and also save money. We know that typically for a new drug discovery, or we typically we need more than 10 years. We know that nowadays the whole world is suffering from by the COVID-19 and the vaccine. The vaccine is very important for us, and also some cure medicine is are very important for us. Nowadays, actually, we don't have cure for COVID-19. People mostly recover by themselves. Nowadays, many machine learning models or machine learning algorithms are developed in this area, in drug discovery area. We can see from a paper, this is chemical shifts in molecular solids by machine learning. This is published in Nature Communication, and it announced that the AI model is 10,000 times faster than existing methods. Now, I'll introduce two papers just recently published and proposed. The models are proposed by my student. So, but we can see that typically for the drug discovery, the first one is molecular generation. So we need to generate some structure of a molecular, and then we if we announce that this is a new drug, but how can we composite this drug? So how to make this drug? So the second task is ritual synthesis prediction. So we can tell the chemists how to produce this kind of drug. And then also we have other tasks such as optimization, and also side effect test, and so on. But first of all, my group are working on task 1 and task 2. For task 1, the molecular generation, we want to generating realistic, novel, and unique molecules and design with desired property. So we need to test some drug likeness, octanol water partition, efficient, and so on. There are a lot of existing research right now for drug discovery. Because of the time limitation, I won't introduce them one by one, but we can know that some of them, for example, VAE-based models, they are with low bound evidence and some gain plus reinforcement learning models. They are unstable. The training the training parts are unstable. And for flow-based, the flow-based ones, most recent models. But this kind of models are also unstable. We need to so we need to propose new models and to conquer this kind of weakness. So this is the structure of the proposed model of our ICLEA 2020 paper. So the key idea is to decompose the generation of a molecule into a sequence under a specific order, and then we use an auto-regressive flow to model the sequence. So this is the structure of the or the illustration of the model graph AF. Actually, we trained this model with reinforcement learning. So you know that for the molecular structure, we can see these structures as subgraphs. So we can use the reinforcement learning so the state is the current subgraph, and the policy is auto-regressive flow to generate node age based on current subgraphs, and we have the reward. This is intermediate reward, and also we have some final reward. So the experiments we can see from this table that we can see that graph if archives competitive results on all metrics, on all the metrics. So that's for validity, uniqueness, and novelty mostly. And also we have some restriction on this metric. And this one is we can show that the property optimization, we compare of the top 3 property scores of generated molecules. We can see that for both personalized log P and QED, our proposed model graph F outperformed all the baselines. Also, this one we can see that for the constrained property optimization, we can see that comparing with the baselines, graph AF significantly outperforms all previous approaches and almost always succeeds in improving the target property. We can see the visualization. We can see that the structures produced by graph AF our model, and it is very similar as just very like two drugs in the part. And then I'll introduce the second task, which is synthesis prediction. Actually, this is the way we tell the chemists how to produce the drug we generated. So this is the left side is the product, given the product which is generated by our model graph AF, and then we need to predict the reactants, and we need to tell the chemist how to produce this kind of product. There are some related work. First of all, of course, we have template-based research or template-based method. We can see that this kind of methods, they have some limitations. Mostly, the first of all is that the poor generalization on same structure, and so if we don't know the structure, we don't have this kind of structure before, so we will never generate this kind of a new structure. So only because of the follow the existed template, so it's not easy to discover new structure. And then it requires subgraph isomorphism. This is a very computationally expensive. So and then it requires some domain knowledge to extract or design templates. So we need a lot of experts to extract or design templates for us. This is also very expensive. The second kind of related work is a sequence-to-sequence based models or methods. We know that there is a very famous format is called SMILE. So for the SMILE, it's kind of a sequence, just like a sequence consists of ASCII text. And for this kind of method, they also have some limitations, because SMILE itself only can represent sequential order, but actually molecules, this kind of a structure, the structures are graph based, or it's kind of a more complicated structure. So actually, this kind of method cannot represent the complicated graph structure. And of course, smiles cannot effectively reflect the complex relationship between atoms of the drug structure, and the overall performance is not satisfactory. It's not satisfied. So we can see that only a small part of functional groups are changed in a chemical reaction. So we can localize some change of the graph. And so we the motivation, the second motivation is that the reaction mechanism are often depicted using electron arrow pathing diagram, where each arrow corresponds to a bond to be generated or to move. So we can remove a bond, or we can add a bond. Then we have a different structure, and we can check if this kind of action is reasonable or not. So we propose a new model, which is called G2G. This is a novel template-free method, and it represents its molecule as a molecular graph, and it formulates Rachel synthesis prediction as a graph-to-graph translation. So we can compose a new drug structure from some small sub structures, which is represented as a graph in our paper or in our research. The whole framework is composed of two stages. One is reaction center identification, and then the second one is graph translation. So first of all, we need to identify the reaction center, which is very important. So the overview structure of a G2GS model is in this way. So first of all, we have a reaction center identification, and then we break the product to symptoms to smaller parts, and then we have some variational graph translation. So we just as a language translation, we translate from some graph to other maybe smaller graphs, because this graph is the product graph is relatively large one, and then we need some smaller one, and we have a reaction among these smaller ones, and then we can compose the product. So for the reaction center identification, we can see that an atom pair IJ is a reaction center. If there is a bond between atom I and atom J in product, so they have some connection, and there is no bond between atom I and atom J in reactants. For this G2G reaction center identification, to identify the bond between with high reactivity, our model first embeds the target molecule into a low dimension space, and especially we employ a graph neural network to calculate the node embedding and graph embeddings of the target molecules. Then we estimate the reactivity of each bond based on its age embedding. The bond with a high is the reactivity score is selected as the reaction center. Then we break the corresponding bond. In this way, the target molecule is split into multiple symptoms, which can be later translated into final reactants. Through reaction center identification module, we reduce one-to-many graph translation task into multiple one-to-one graph translation tasks. That simplify the problem. Then we have the graph translation. The goal of graph translation is to translate its incomplete symptom to the final reactant, and the method is conditional graph generation. It's treated as a mark for decision process. And also, we consider the diversity. We incorporate a latent code Z to capture uncertainty. So, and we can see how graph translation is done in following illustration. Our graph translation module has 4 actions. Given the current symptom, it first select a node to focus on. See, we select a carbon atom here. First, we select carbon. This one, and then we select a second node to focus on, and then we select an age type. After 2 nodes are selected, the model select the age type for age between these 2 nodes. Note that if the second node is an isolated node, it corresponds to adding a new node to current symptom. And finally, it's termination prediction. Our module predicts whether the graph translation is done or not. If it needs to be terminated, the current symptom is regarded as the final reactant. If it does not, the module will select another node and repeat this procedure. experiments results the results show that G2G archives state-of-the-art results comparing to the baselines. And also we have some visualization to show how to do this how that the G2GS model works. To give a deeper insight into our model, we also we show this visualization part, and the figure in the left shows some successful prediction made by G2GS, and the template entailed by these reactions are summarized below. So this the bottom one. The figure in the right represents a case where none of the predictions match the ground truth. However, this does not mean our model fails to predict a synthesis route for the target molecule, as a molecule can be synthesized in multiple ways. To further illustrate this point, we employ a reaction prediction model to predict the product based on the reaction generated by our model, which is shown in the bottom of the right figure.
Thank you very much for that very interesting and in-depth talk on graph representation learning for drug discovery, Professor Ming.
Thank you, Professor Ming, and I hope that the audience learned a lot from the talk, because we sure did. I mean, the concept of graphs have long been an integral part of computer science, and it's very interesting to see them being applied in modern approaches such as deep learning to accelerate processes in medical studies such as drug discovery. Brilliant work, if I say so myself.
That's right, Joseph. And Professor Ming really went down to the specifics, highlighting two key tasks in applying graphs in drug discovery, which are molecular generation and retrosynthesis, as well as our proposed graph-related approach, which is called G2G or graph-to-graph translation. Indeed, the possibilities for graph learning are almost endless, like an infinite graph, as one might say.
That was nicely worded, Midel. And to the audience, if you have questions for Professor Ming about her topic on drug discovery, please raise them on the Q&A section, and the speaker will try to answer your queries during the after plenary activity. Now, on to the second keynote speech. Let me call on Dr. Lani Maceda, Professor of Information Technology and Associate Dean of the College of Science of Bicol University, to introduce the next speaker.
Good day, everyone. Our speaker is the co-founder and current president of Layer Tech Software Labs Incorporated, and a staunch advocate for inclusive digital transformation. She has led a number of research and development and tech deployment projects with both local and international partners, many of which received recognitions on its impact and efficacy. In 2015, she received the Gold Award at Global Innovation Competition by Making All Voices Count, a grand challenge for development in Jakarta, Indonesia. In 2016, she received an iCount Award from United Nations Joint Program on HIV or AIDS, or UNAIDS, and the Pact for gamified AIDS mapping in youth. In 2017, her system received Best Global Climate Practice Award, given by International Center for Climate Governance in Italy. And in 2018, her team was awarded European Union Civic Tech for Democracy Award in Brussels, Belgium. She works as cybersecurity, data science and analytics consultant for various companies, government and non-government organizations. For years, Layer Tech Labs has been working with stakeholders from the government, academe, private sector, and civil society organization on data and ICT-centered solutions deployed on the ground. A very important but sometimes overlooked factor in designing and using ICT-centered solutions is getting the end users, which is the human component, to work effectively with the system. Humans lie. Humans don't cooperate. But should we really be blaming them? She will discuss first-hand lessons, challenges, and how data collection and ICT systems can work effectively with unpredictable human behavior to get impactful and effective data and ICT solutions. Her talk is entitled Humans versus Automation: Designing and Implementing Automated Mechanisms with Unpredictable Humans. Friends, please help me welcome Miss Maria Jihan Frey G. Sangil.
A pleasant day to everyone. I'm Frey from Layer Tech Labs, and it's definitely an honor to be speaking alongside such amazing women today. For the next 30 minutes, I'll take you through our experiences working on data analytics and ICT systems that are greatly entangled with human inputs and participation. To start, I'd like to share this quote from renowned cybersecurity figure Kevin Mitnick. He said, "Companies spend millions of dollars on firewalls, encryption, and secure access devices, and it's money wasted because none of these measures address the weakest link in the security chain, which is, surprise, the humans. Humans are very prone to errors, to bias. We can be very problematic to deal with, especially in using tech tools and information systems, for example. But as we speak, there is still no technology that could rival human intelligence. Humans are very robust, flexible, and adaptive, which I think makes it fascinating and rewarding to incorporate human interactions when we design our systems, our mechanisms. In Layer Tech, this is exactly what we deal with most of the time. We work on tech projects that involve a lot of human input. And when you deploy an ICT solution into the field, many factors come into play, way outside the initial design. It might look good on paper, in controlled environments, but getting it out there in the field, it's a completely different story. That's why I will be sharing with you 3 of our projects dealing massively with human interaction and the challenges, what we learned, and how we deal with, arguably, the riskiest factor in any ground deployment of ICT-based solutions. So before I continue, just a clarification. For the rest of the presentation, when I say mechanism, I am referring to any system of different parts working together driven by an objective. So you have a process, conditions, and actors or agents. So for example, voting is a kind of mechanism, auction is a kind of mechanism, relief distribution is a mechanism, any system working together driven by an objective. Now, just to give you a brief overview of what we're doing, just to set the context. First, we have our Cloud City project. So Cloud City project is a feedback collection and analytics mechanism. It constantly collects citizen feedback from different channels, and we have tools and partners who use these feedback data to generate insights, and we forward the insights generated to partner local governments or decision makers and organizations. And in turn, the local decision makers share with us what has been done in response to the recommendations and insights to close the feedback loop. Another project we're working on is OCDEX, and this is very much similar to Cloud City in terms of tech backend. But for OCDEX, we use official government procurement data, contracts and expenditures, and we use various tools and analysis frameworks to generate insights, do business intelligence, and monitor government spending to identify red flags and inefficiencies. And this is very impactful since, it's estimated that about 10 to 25% of each government contract's value is lost due to corruption. So monitoring government procurement is definitely impactful, not only for the Philippines. Finally, on the more end user side, we deploy a lot of games to ethically collect data and deliver information to marginalized communities. So we use games to teach coding to SPED and PWD kids, for example, and we monitor their progress. Another one is Medics. So this one is a learning monitoring tool that deliver reproductive health information and monitors learners' knowledge and understanding of key topics, all disguised as a game. Since, we have several areas in the world where reproductive health knowledge is still taboo, and it can get dangerous for young people, for girls to learn about certain things just because they are girls, sadly. So tech tools like these help sneak in important health information in those areas. Now, what is something in common with these three projects? They greatly involve the participation of humans, of people. Community sensing is basically a network of private sensors used by agents, and these agents feed data or measurements into a mechanism or a system. So we have a phenomenon or an actual state, and then that emits signals. And then the agents receive the signals, and in turn, the agents report the signal that they observed to a center. And the center processes the signals and runs the mechanism. So in this case, you can see that the tech is only half of the story. So the other half is how the human users, the agents, will receive the signals, and in turn, how they will respond to the mechanism. And that is a major challenge. Can be a major challenge. Working with community sensing, I'd like to share very real and maybe relatable challenges in design and implementation of mechanisms. So most of them are related to the human factor, working with humans. So first, humans give untruthful, false, sometimes malicious feedback. Second, some agents lack trust in the mechanism, in the integrity of the mechanism. So some of them would refuse to participate or would give untruthful feedback because they do not trust the integrity of your mechanism. Third, anonymity versus credibility. This is very common working with mechanisms related to governments, to our government partners. So for example, some agents would report more truthful information if they are anonymous for whatever reason. They can be afraid to report complaints or give complaints in fear that someone in the receiving end might identify who they are, things like that. But at the same time, on the flip side, there's also this problem of credibility. So if the report is anonymous, then how do you ensure that it is a credible report? We have a lot of government partners who has this worry in using mechanisms. So we have that. Fourth, exclusion. So this is very real. So sometimes we design systems, we collect data via internet. But how about those with no internet connection? How about those with no devices? Or those who are living in very far-flung areas? They will be automatically excluded in your mechanism design. And last but not the least, socioeconomic and cultural barriers. So for example, you have marginalized groups, or in areas, for example, women, some of them may have limited capacity to participate in your mechanism, or some of them are not allowed to do things, or PWDs, persons with disabilities, maybe they cannot see the form that you're giving them. So things like that. There are socioeconomic and cultural barriers in designing mechanisms like these. So all of these, it leads to skewed data for decision making, which can be very dangerous. Now, given these challenges, what do we do? Do we simply, enforce rules? Do we simply blame them for not following the authority? Now, while being very strict and giving penalties can help, it isn't always a sustainable solution, especially if it doesn't really solve the underlying problems of your mechanism. Since we are celebrating women in computing, I'd like to stress why we are very keen on ensuring inclusivity in the way we design tech and our mechanisms. It can be easy to just write it off as assumptions or delimitations, when we do our research work. But in real life scenarios, this can have profound impact on those who were quote unquote excluded. And that's a sad fact. In many parts of the world, there are little girls who are still struggling to get equal opportunity and recognition. Now, if that's not how it is where you're from, then good for you. But many others are not as lucky. And just imagine if we exclude them from the mechanism. Even to this day, if I may be allowed to share a personal experience, I still get very sexist comments. Just a couple of months ago, someone told me, being so aggressive with tech and being so outspoken is bad for you. Guys don't like that. Things like that. Or once when I introduced myself as a consultant of a certain person, there are these guys who said in a very sarcastic remark, "Oh, are you really? Like, are you sure you're supposed to be working in tech?" Things like that. So yes, exclusion is very much alive, sadly. And the thing is, there are a lot of women who made profound impact in the world today. So in science, for example, in healthcare, computing, in many areas and fields in the world. So just imagine if these women didn't get the opportunity to make a change, then it is our loss. So if that little girl that you excluded, for example, who knows if she will grow up to be someone who will discover a cure for a disease that will potentially save you or your loved one's life. So inclusion, it's always society's gain. So if we exclude people, it's our loss. All right. Which is why we give special emphasis into inclusion. Now that said, how are we dealing with challenges in the human factor? So how do we account for as many people as possible in our designs? How do we, ensure the integrity of the mechanism? How do we get people to participate? So we have a two-pronged approach. we have the tech side, and we have the collaborative side. So under the tech, just a brief run through since I will be discussing the details later. So we use filtering mechanisms that use machine learning, for example. So we use it to assign scores to the feedback that we receive or to flag malicious or false feedback. We also use tools like process mining to discover actual processes and detect bottlenecks. We also employ different privacy techniques and frameworks to ensure privacy and anonymity. Later on, again, I will be sharing details on this. And of course, we use multiple sources, to add different dimensions in our insights or for triangulating findings before we forward them to decision makers. So if our respondents, for example, wouldn't want to use Facebook, then we try to scrape data from Twitter or from other platforms, even sometimes offline platforms. We do that. Now, in parallel, we work a lot with different stakeholders to capacitate our users. So we want them to trust the mechanism, not because they're afraid, but because they understand, how it works, what it is, what it's for. We collaborate with different experts in different fields to give context to our findings, and we make sure that they're always ready to continuously improve systems and monitor how it works in the field. So two-pronged, we have the tech side, and in parallel, the collaborative side. Now let's get into the details. How do you get people to cooperate in your mechanism? How do you encourage them to tell the truth, to participate? So long story short, agents tend to do what's good for them or for their utility, usually. So for that, when we design our mechanisms or our systems, feedback collection, for example, we try to do the following. So first, we incentivize truth-telling, meaning we try to incorporate ways wherein it's going to be beneficial for the agent to tell the truth and not lie. And incentive does not always mean monetary. So it can be something like reporting to them updates on how their government responded to their feedback, for example. Another thing we do is we penalize lying or going against the system. For example, we assign negative credibility scores for agents known to have provided false feedback in the past. But be very careful when giving penalties, since we want the agents to still participate in the mechanisms, and we do not want to create unnecessary risks for them that would discourage their participation. And speaking of risks, we also encourage agents to speak the truth by minimizing risks of doing so. For example, if you want an agent to report complaints, we try to ensure that their anonymity and privacy is secured, is guaranteed, and that the system is not designed wherein it can be easily compromised. So we need to make them trust the system. Privacy and anonymity can be crucial in making agents trust the mechanism. So here are a couple of things that we do to help ensure privacy and anonymity in their reports. So number one, we do the assume breach position. So this means that when you design your system, you already accept the fact that it's not 100% guaranteed perfect security. No. So you incorporate safeguards to ensure that the risks are minimized in the event that a breach happens. Now you can also explore differential privacy, which is sharing information publicly, in our case in open data format, but without compromising personal sensitive information. So there are a lot of tools and interesting studies on this. Third, compliance to privacy laws and ethics. So data privacy, we have the data privacy law here in the Philippines, and we also follow GDPR for when you need to process data from EU citizens. So it's always good to check the existing privacy laws, rules and regulations. And finally, we try to not rely on one entity alone to validate the credibility of input. So if that person or system is compromised or bribed, for example, especially in contexts where this is possible or this happens, then the entire system automatically fails. That's why we try our best to explore more distributive models for validation. So if you work on blockchain or if you have experience working on the mechanisms behind blockchain validation, then it is analogous to that. This is one study we did. I actually wrote the formal paper during lockdown last year. We found out that you can influence agents to do a certain thing without directly penalizing or incentivizing them. So in 2009, we worked with businesses, with private sector partners. In this case, we wanted competition. So we want capable and local businesses to bid on government projects. But of course, they have hesitations. So you see, for a business to bid on a project, the minimum condition, or we call the bid monotonicity, is this. So the expected utility, or what you will gain, has to be bigger than your cost of participation. So what we did is, all other things constant, we minimized the cost of acquiring bidding information by revealing certain information or data that are already being released by the Philippine government e-procurement system. So anyone can download it. Now we use the Philippine procurement open data. We taught businesses how to use it for business intelligence, and then we found out that this increased their bidding confidence. So, we can share the paper on this if you're interested later on. So that's it. Simply by revealing correct information to agents, you can already influence agents to act a certain way. This use case is also very important and relevant. Information and ICT tools encourages or empowers your agents to act. So, agents can be hesitant to act or, for example, file complaints or report truthfully if they do not have solid supporting information. And the data and ICT tools can be really powerful, to encourage them to do so. So here in this specific use case, we used open government data, open government contracts, PhilJobs data, to look for red flags and possible inefficiencies in HIV/AIDS related procurement or government purchases. And in partnership with a civil society organization working on HIV/AIDS advocacy, we were able to give them evidence and basis for seeking accountability and ensuring commensurate service delivery. Here is an example. If the government is spending on a training, for example, if the government spent 100,000 pesos for a 3-day training, example only, and the recipients, the people receive training for only 2 days, then it is already solid ground for them to raise this issue. So they become more confident and they act because they know that this is the government price and this is what they received. So the paper and reports are also available for download. So just let me know if you're interested to read about this. But the thing is, giving certain ICT tools to your agents can really push them to act. And last but not the least in my examples, by automating detection of red flags and inefficiencies, you can prompt agents to act quickly. So in this example, we used procurement data to automatically discover processes and compare them with what is prescribed by the law. So by using data and ICT tools, in this case, I used a heuristics process miner. Automatically, the miner prompts me when there are deviations happening and who are the agents involved. And from there, you can continuously monitor compliance or immediately correct inefficiencies. And what's amazing with automated tools is that, it can reveal trends which might have been difficult for human manual reviewers to immediately see, especially if you're dealing with massive amounts of continuously flowing data. So automation is quite an important tool in ensuring that the proper process is being followed. We also have paper and reports on this. We can clearly see how data in ICT can be very powerful in influencing decisions of humans, of agents. So it can empower them to speak up, it can help make the world more inclusive if correctly designed. Because as powerful as it is, if it's not well thought of, it can also be very harmful and it can exclude people. And you can have, skewed interpretations and insights, which is also very, very dangerous. So that said, I'd like to end with this quote from Brian Christian and Tom Griffiths. So they said, if the rules of the game force a bad strategy, maybe we shouldn't try to change strategies. Maybe we should try to change the game. I think this is very profound since most of us here are researchers, scientists, experts who design systems and tools and, do automation. And it can be really easy for us to blame people, the bias and errors of human agents. Or it can be easy for us to put some of them in I would like to say, the delimitation area, wherein you just say, okay, they're not covered in this study or they're not considered. But if we take the time and effort to try and understand what makes them move a certain way, then we can come up with more inclusive and more effective mechanism designs that would definitely impact society for the better. And I know that people in this virtual room can do just that. So that's it. Thank you very much for staying with me the past 30 minutes. Please feel free to send us a message if there are reports or papers or studies you'd like to know more about. Looking forward to hearing your insights.
We care for your digital well-being. Please close your eyes for about 20 seconds. Let me count it down for you. 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now open your eyes and please focus on an object, preferably 20 feet away. Thank you. Now, let us continue with our event program.
Thank you very much, Frey, for that wonderful and very detailed talk about human factor and the challenges posed by deploying ICT-based solutions. We have researchers, educators, students, and industry partners in our audience right now, and I'm 100% sure that they learned a lot from you and your company's experiences. I know that we are prone to bias and errors, so these challenges are to be expected, right, Joseph?
Yes, Medeth, and I also appreciate the way Frey highlighted inclusivity, specifically on race, gender, and ethnicity, as one of the most integral parts that should be considered in all forms of technology and its deployment.
I agree, Joseph. To our participants, if you have further questions for Frey, please raise them on the Q&A section, and the speaker will try to answer your queries during the after plenary activity.
Now for the last keynote speech, let me call on Dr. Bimlesh Wadhwa, Senior Lecturer of Computer Science and Assistant Dean of the School of Computing at National University Singapore, to introduce the next speaker.
Hello, everyone. It gives me a great pleasure to introduce Dr. Noa Ahmed. She is an eminent computer scientist from Bangladesh. Dr. Noa completed her PhD from Georgia Institute of Technology. She is currently an associate professor at North-South University. In her work, Dr. Noa addresses social challenges such as protecting women from sexual harassment, She is currently working on a notable funded project to enhance inclusion of women in digital finance through enabling better technology designs. Her work ensures social justice and feminist human computer interaction. In a broader perspective, her work is about finding low cost solutions for marginal communities. Dr. Nova has several other notable contributions to the profession as well. She is founder and executive chair of National Young Academy Bangladesh. She is founding board member of Khan Peteroy, a suicide prevention call center, an active volunteer of Children's Science Congress and Missing Daughters Initiative, and she is also chair of Sikhai, Dhaka chapter in Bangladesh. Once again, it gives me a great pleasure to invite Dr. Noah Ahmed to deliver her keynote today.
Hello everyone, I'm Nova. I'm here to give you the keynote speech about thinking of an equal world. I'm thinking about women in computing here for the equality. So this is me. I'm Nova from Bangladesh. I'm a computer scientist. In computer science problem solving, I also look at feminist issues, humanitarian issues, and I work in an area called feminist HCI. So I want to start my stories with a personal touch, and then I want to come into the challenges we face dealing with women in computing. So, as a student, when I was undergrad student, I started there. I was one of those enthusiastic students, and we were the second batch of computer science in our country in Dhaka University. So, everything was just getting started and we were trying out different things, and at that time we did not know about gender disparity because we did not have any role models or anything. We just went with the flow. It was a new subject, we were interested in it, and there were very few girls. It was only five of us, and I mean we always used to be together, and I mean my other friends would call us like farm chickens, like they always stay together. And I got very much interested in competitive programming. So in a group, we will solve problems, and I loved the problem solving techniques, and it was a lot of fun. But something happened when we were solving those problems. So there was an ACM ICPC competition taking place in Bangladesh, and only the champion gets to go to perform the international level competition. So our team did really bad. Really bad means, I mean, it was not in the top position, not in the top three. It went beyond that, and everybody was very devastated. And one of our group mates heard that, I mean, we may compete from India. I mean, there are several chances we can take, and Indians are not as good as us. I mean, that was a totally, I mean, that was not true, but they got that news at that time, and they thought they will try it out from an Indian site. And when the team planned of going to India, they actually excluded me. I was the only female member, and they excluded me without letting me know, assuming that I won't be able to visit India. They will, I mean, they will take a cheaper route. They will go by road, and I mean, I can imagine there will be lots of issues. But I was really hurt that they did not even ask me, like whether I would go or not. They just assumed that a female student cannot travel abroad. And actually, that's a time I left competitive programming. That was a mistake, but I made a promise that I have to change this. So still, I talk to parents, I talk to others, and if there is one student who needs to go anywhere and cannot go because it's all male team or the parents are conservative, I actually go with them. I ensure that, I mean, no one is excluded just because of the inconvenience or safety issues in our country. And sometimes it gets messy, sometimes it gets on the nerve, but I think it's worth it. We have to make it a better place, and things are changing actually. So on the personal journey still continues. So I went towards my dreams. So I went to USA to do my PhD, and I started at Georgia Tech. And this is my PhD advisor. It's his daughter drew his portrait here. You can see he's Umakishore Ramachandran, a very famous professor in systems area. But when I joined the program, he was a professor already for more than 20 years. And I was his first and only female student by then. Recently, he told me he got a second female student. It's so the situation in US in that lab, I was the only female student, and yes, the challenges remained, like not enough women in computing. So the PhD program was tough. When I was starting off, one day I got very frustrated, and there was a female professor downstairs named Dr. Maureen Bigger. I went into her room and I started crying. And she asked me, "What is it?" I did not have an answer, but everything just seemed very difficult. And she actually suggested me to join the Grace Hopper celebration for women in computing that takes place in US. And I think it was actually the best thing she ever mentioned to me, because I made lots of friends there. And while I was feeling drained out, exhausted, going there, everybody was, everybody was so supportive, so enthusiastic, seeing a female student doing systems work. It all kind of gave me lots of confidence, a burst of confidence. And I found out, like, this power of networking and support is all you need. You know you can do it, but sometimes you need to hear it out loud. So yes, that was a gift to me. um, and my PhD journey wasn't easy. I had a great family. As you can see, I had two tiny daughters. But during my PhD, actually, my parents got divorced. It was not an easy divorce. My father actually remarried a movie star, so there was lots of scandal, and it was all over the newspapers. My mom had to struggle with my other siblings. It was a very difficult time for me, for all of us, to be honest. I have two baby daughters, and they were handful. Thanks to Georgia Tech, Georgia Tech has a beautiful, amazing daycare. So these are the type of support you need actually when you are balancing family and graduate school or other type of career options. And my spouse was also a PhD student at Georgia Tech, so you can imagine the amount of pressure. And we always had deadlines at the same time. And when I finished my PhD, I became famous. So there would be other graduate students coming, making appointments to meet me and asking me, "Okay, Nova, when should I get pregnant? After the proposal or after the defense?" So yes. So the group support, the conversations help a lot. So I came back. I when I finished PhD, always wanted to come back to Bangladesh, and I wanted to make differences, wanted to change things here. I came back like, "Oh, okay, I'm here to change everything." So when I joined the department, I was the only female faculty, and the classrooms were not different from ours. We did not have many more female students. And later there was two of us, and we found out that our female students are doing well in theory exams, but they are not as enthusiastic as they should be in the lab classes. I found kind of a fear, a hesitation. And when I talked to the other female faculty, she was from electrical engineering, she was teaching a robotics course. She found the similar problems. So we started exploring into the problems. What could be the problem here? And we started talking to group of students, group of young professionals, group of senior professionals. What could be their what could be the problem? And it's beyond that. We have actually 16% of female students in computer science programs or related programs, but only 2% of them are working outside. So it's a bigger problem than we can imagine. And when we talked to students, we found out certain type of problems that were upfront, like the homes are not supporting girls. uh, I mean, not that they're not supporting girls, but there is a concept like, oh, the boys are better in programming, the boys are better with computers. So that impacts the confidence, and there is a personal fear that, I mean, that is either that's coming from the society or it's coming from the way daughters are raised. And there was a huge fear of making a mistake. So many of the questions are not asked, not many of the challenging things are not tried out. What if I make a mistake? What if I make a mistake? And I see that ingrained in our female students. And I talked to them, and they said, it's not only the fear I have inside. People also put it into you. So if a boy burns an IC, the technician will not tell him much. But if a girl burns an IC, the technician will come and yell at her, "What have you done?" And the girl looks like she has murdered someone. I mean, although the IC could be faulty beforehand. So we found out social barriers at home, like I said before. Like everyone believes that boys believes in boys work and girls work. Boys will work with electronics, change the light bulbs and do all those work. And the girl will be asked, "Oh, the router is not working. You must have done something wrong. You must have touched it. That's why it's not working," and things like that. Toys are different. Like one of my students shared with me, like her brother used to get cars and all the toys that are creative, blocks, Legos, and all those things. And he used to break things up, and her parents would be so happy, like, "Oh, he's going to be an engineer." And for the girl, she was asked, "Oh, hey, tidy things up, put them nicely, put them, decorate them nicely." And so it's the fear that I cannot break things, I have to keep things perfectly. So it's something, and the behavior becomes different when you put it in different ways. And I don't know how it is for you, but here asking too many questions is not acceptable from women. And, "Oh, why are you asking that many questions? What's happening to you?" The girls are expected to be tiny, I mean, timid, happy, shy, and these are all the good qualities. So yes, these are social perception, but that's not all actually. And we did a survey, and I mean, some of the answers I thought it were written by boys, but it had like, boys are naturally better, boys are girls are less competent, and all those things. It's inherent fear that comes, that you start with, and that's scary. That's something we need to address. We need to discuss about these things, because we cannot change our childhood, but once we know that these are the challenges, these are society driven, we can actually challenge them. We can try things that are out of our comfort zone. So social barriers were not only in the classes, it actually went beyond the classroom. I mean, if we're not in the homes, it went towards classroom because in the classrooms the people are there, they are growing up with the same mentality. So often there are male lab instructors in the laboratory classes, and the male lab instructor, he will be very comfortable showing something to the boys, but he will be hesitant to show it in that detail to a girl. And the girl also feels shy, I mean, because up to high school there are mostly boys school and girls school, very few co-educational schools, and there is a cultural barrier. Like again, I said, female students hesitate to ask questions in the lab classes or classrooms. And when there is a problem, the network among female students is not that big. So boys can go and ask a senior brother, ask anyone, if they're facing a problem. But often when girls are hesitant, they're not going out and reaching out, they're stuck with a problem. Along with that, there are structural barriers. In Bangladesh, there are most of the government universities have hostels, and they have sunset laws, like everybody has to return to the hostel before sunset, and it's discriminatory. Of course, the boys don't have any such rule. So if you're having a problem, if you need a group study or group session or need to discuss it with a friend, you have to do it by sunset. And labs are not open for female students in certain regions. I mean, okay, so sunset, so or off time, so girls should go back to home or in the hostel and practice there, but not in the laboratory classes. We had a discussion where some of the competitive programming classes, special classes, were scheduled at midnight at boys' hostel. Why do we even need to consider a time when girls can join them? Girls are not going to come there. So I mean, they're putting I mean, they're scheduling something that structurally excludes women. um, and we have seen barriers from parents side as well. Parent will allow the boy, their son, to use internet or mobile phone all night long, or late night, but the girls will be restricted. Oh, they can get bad friends, or something bad can happen, it's risky, and all those things are coming. We understand the social safety perspective, but again, it limits the access. I hope that the current corona situation has opened up lots of platform where we can connect digitally. We don't need to, I mean, crossing boundaries are much easier, and I hope we can take advantage of that to solve these type of problems. And so as we continued our exploration, we found out that in job places, in the software firms, women employees are not preferred. And when I explored that, when I went out and asked some of the employers, they said, "Oh, okay. If I hire a woman, she will disturb the male programmers." So yeah, because the male programmer will be looking at her, paying attention to her, and not they will not be able to code. I mean, that's a reason from a senior personnel, and it was justified, and everybody agreed to that. So in Bangladesh, although there are, I mean, several companies that are open, things are getting better, but there were some structural barriers like that. There was unwritten policy of not taking women at programming jobs. They're mostly at HR, or I mean, quality assurance team, but not in the core programming team. Okay. And often, when I was exploring this topic, there was a senior professional who came to meet me secretly, without I mean, I cannot disclose the company name, but I mean, I feel like doing it because it's a famous company and international one. And she told me how at higher level women are excluded from promotion because there is a secret glass ceiling, and they will just make preferences in responsible position for male employees. Also, there is the problem of sexual harassment. We were exploring the topic, what are the barriers, and it came out very naturally. And the problem is, I mean, the problem exists. I think sexual harassment is a problem that has been everywhere. But here it's worse because women do not want to open up about the problem itself because they don't want to sound like they're complaining, and don't want to move forward to be identified or being pointed out. And moreover, there's not enough support system. I mean, the justice system is weak and we cannot do much. Often, many of us are not aware of our rights. So, yes, we have these problems as well. But I mean, things are, I mean, although it's a black slide and I'm talking about bad things, things are not as bad as it sounds. There is sunshine. There is always, I mean, there are way forward. There are good things that are taking place. Otherwise, how could we all be here, right? I'm here in front of you all. So, yes. So for social barriers, um, we have had wonderful networks, a wonderful support system, and um, mentoring support and reaching out. So when there is a problem, probably I cannot solve it alone, but maybe with a group we can come up with an idea, or we can support each other in a difficult situation, or I can tell you what how I dealt with it, and maybe you can come up with your own way of ideas. Here is a story. It was very inspiring for me when I was doing the research with undergrad students. A student from a famous institute of Bangladesh came and told me this story. Like, uh, it was an undergraduate level programming class, and she did an assignment. And a boy from her class copied the assignment from her. It was a coding assignment. And when the teacher saw the identical code, the teacher got very furious, which is natural, and he actually made the assumption that the girl copied from the boy. And in front of the class, he talked to her, and he actually said mean things to her, and she was very hurt, not because the teacher was angry about the copy of code, but because he did not even ask who copied whose code. So that was a thing that hurt her a lot, and she realized that the teachers are assuming that the female students are weaker than the male students. So she took it personally. She organized programming sessions with senior students and with peers and with junior students to ensure that they will be known as the best programming batches. I mean, best programming students. Like, female student means best programmers. So they continued it, and still they're continuing it. In that institution, if you look for the best programmer, you will probably find a female student's name there. And it actually shows how the power of networking and support can take you to a level higher. And definitely it will reach the level when we can include all. It's not a woman only problem. We can only then we can think that yes, it's a human problem. Yeah. So beyond that, when we can go beyond that, we can have actually a solution that is for all of us. Many of the structural barriers needs discussion, attention, and often policy level intervention. And I mean, these celebrations, these networking sessions, where all the women are here, all the discussions are taking place with high level officials, we can actually talk about many things that are unheard of, and we can actually push things forward. So here's another story from a faculty member. She was faculty member, a junior faculty. After coming back, finishing her PhD, she joined her institute, and she was given lots of responsibilities as you push them down to the junior faculties. So there was a conference taking place in the university, and she was asked to be in the reception committee because she was the female member. And in the reception committee, more than that, she was given the responsibility that she has to hand over a stick of flour to all the attendees. And she was very upset. She went back to the organizer and told them that she wants an academic role. And the professor said, no, the female, you are a female, how nice it will look if you deliver those flowers. And she explained it all clearly, that it will look much nicer if a male faculty delivers them, hands them over to all the attendees. And the professor got very grumpy, but he realized that she will not take that responsibility, and he gave her an academic responsibility. And mm, every time he made a gender based role for this, she came up and pointed it out. So yes, you can make changes by talking about it, by asking for what you want or asking for what you don't want. So yes, when we are problem solvers and we are trained as problem solvers, we can think about solving problems, and solving it alone is difficult, but when we are all together we can solve them. And when a difficult time is coming, knowing that you are not alone helps a lot. So yes, we can collectively address a lot, and I think that's the best strength we have here. So I want to thank you all, and I also want to thank my wonderful family. So as you can see, my girls have grown up taller and they're making some dance moves with their dad. So yes, and I thank to Almighty. You can do a lot when you have a support system around you. I think we can do a lot together. I'm looking forward to that and thanking you everyone again. Bye bye.
Thank you very much for that very personal and inspiring talk, Professor Nova. As a woman myself, I can attest that I have also felt the same struggles, navigating through the ups and downs of a career in computing field. However, it's also important not to give in to these structural and social barriers and continue to push for equality in all spaces.
That's very well said, Mideth, and I am sure that our audience who are actively listening right now also appreciate Professor Nova's wise words and career advice.
Now it's time for the most anticipated part of this virtual event, the presentation of accepted abstracts.
For the presentation proper, we have 6 accepted abstracts submitted by researchers and educators all over the world, from Australia, Bangladesh, Japan, and India. And we certainly cannot wait to hear them present their ideas to all of you.
That's right, Joseph. And we also have poster presentation composed of 8 various themes distributed over 21 papers where participants can view the digital poster and watch the corresponding video presentation. Aside from the themes of this celebration, there is also a special track from the host country, Philippines.
Participants, you may view the posters and watch the video presentations at acmwap2021.boards.net under the Research Exhibit 2021. However, we will do this later during the after plenary activity.
Dear participants, please enjoy the presentation of selected research papers.
Interventions studying IT in secondary school and social support. This video gives a glimpse into what influences women to enrol in IT degrees in Australia. The ongoing problem of encouraging women to take up ICT degrees and move on to careers in the profession has been an issue for very many years. It's important to know why females enroll in university degrees so that we can encourage more of them to do so and bring some gender equity into the IT industry. So this study looks at interventions and how they might influence girls in their choice of university degree and encourage more of them to take up IT degrees. So we surveyed first-year female ICT students in universities around Australia. For this study, we identified 36 initiatives aimed at increasing interest in ICT in school students. Some of these initiatives were aimed at both boys and girls. Some were aimed solely at girls. And examples of interventions go from everything that are software engineering and coding like a girl, right through to exploring ICT and looking at the careers that are available to people in the ICT industry. Study participants were on average exposed to 5.4 initiatives. This meant that the people we surveyed were actually attending more than one intervention program during their school time. And on average, there were 5.4. So this is quite a significant number of either one-day initiatives, or some of these interventions are actually clubs, and some have outcomes that are competitive. Others are just a one-day or a one-off networking event. But the one most highly attended in our survey was Women in Technology. And this was a national initiative, and many of these interventions do appear to be national initiatives. But in addition to these interventions, the students in the survey were asked what else influenced them in their choice of degree. And we found that most of the students involved in our survey actually studied an ICT subject at school. There's a whole range of titles for these ICT subjects that were basically computing orientating. Many are influenced by family and friends in their choice of career, and therefore in their choice of degree. The number of participants who mentioned that family were a big influence was as high as 41%. Friends at 31%, and teachers, of course, are very influential, including career teachers. And most of our girls in the survey noted more than one influence. So they may be saying that the intervention plus a career teacher plus some friends that provided a role model in the industry were incentives to actually study an ICT degree in the university environment. So moving forward, we believe that there is some value in examining interventions more deeply. We think they are useful in career planning, but the depth of their use we have not uncovered. Those aimed at female participants tended to be a little more influential on their choice of degree than the more general interventions that we saw, but there was no one standout influencer, and the participants in the survey were taking more than one intervention in a year, and actually covering a number through their school time. So we have a lot of questions to answer in the amount of effort and money that's put into these interventions. Are there any common or unique characteristics that we can identify to help craft them better? Are they advertised to the right target audience? And are schools supporting that advertising of these interventions? Or are they going on outside of the school curriculum, outside of the extracurricular activities offered by the school? So we've uncovered a lot more questions to answer than we have found answers, but it's an interesting line of inquiry to see if we can improve the number of females entering university and subsequently entering industry. So thank you for listening. If you have any questions, there is an email there you can approach the team through, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to the Tech Girls Movement Foundation. My name's Jacqueline Tate, and I'm presenting today on behalf of Dr. Janine Beekusen, founder and CEO of the Tech Girls Movement. As chair of the ACMW Asia Pacific, it's my pleasure to have you all at this conference, and I really want to thank the ACMW committee and especially the women in the Philippines who've worked so hard to present this event today. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia. I'm presenting today on Wurundjeri lands. These are Tech Girls, empowered, confident young women who have had fantastic experiences in tech. And here's a great image of Janine in her cape supporting the girls. Our vision, a society in which girls confidently lead in STEM entrepreneurship and contribute to their community and the economy. Our mission? To champion Australian schoolgirls using hands-on learning to transform their future and encourage equity in the technology industry. We aim to help girls get excited and connected with technology in a way that's meaningful and life-changing, to give every girl the opportunity to participate in the Tech Girls movement and realise their potential to lead. So far, we've engaged over 10,000 girls. We've engaged hundreds of tech professionals who guide our teams, and we've made powerful partnerships with girls, parents, teachers, schools, university, and industry and government. All our programs are created and operated by the Tech Girls Movement Foundation and based on over 20 years of research. So this is us in a circle. We have programs, book characters, partners, and crucially underpinned by research and evaluation. Let's start with the programs. We have online events. We have a 12-week competition. We run entrepreneurship in a day, and we have a partnership with the Academy for Enterprising Girls to run free workshops to all girls across Australia. We also do robotics and STEM design challenges. The Tech Girls competition runs over 12 weeks and is situated within the Australian Digital Technologies curriculum. We invite teams of schoolgirls to solve real-world problems through technology. Each team is mentored by a STEM industry specialist offering guidance, expertise, and role modelling. Girls are supported by us with a series of workshops which build their skills in coding, robotics, and entrepreneurship. Next, it's our book characters. Here's Janine, dressed up as Joella and made into a cartoon. We have many of these images of aspirational role models of women in technology. They've been made into books and distributed for free to every secondary and primary school in Australia, 80,000 of them. They're used as a career resource to tell stories and give powerful visions to counteract those negative STEM stereotypes often portrayed in the media. These inspiring stories showcase to all young girls that they can have a successful and rewarding career in technology. Tech Girls is collaborative. We use and work with our partners to create this amazing set of programs and to create the change we want in gender equity in technology. Our partners include the girls themselves, their parents whose opinions on technology are so important, teachers who we love to support and train, but also the schools, the universities we work with, and our industry partners who help to fund this research and programs. Now let's turn to research and evaluation. To ensure continued improvement of outcomes, annual surveys are administered to monitor the Tech Girls program. Results indicate significant success across all our objectives. The 2020 evaluation of the Tech Girls competition has been included here as a poster so you can peruse it at your leisure. It indicates that over 80% of students were more confident about using technology after participating in our program. Tech Girls faces challenges in the future to outreach as far as the regional areas in Australia and to keep up with the growth of the program. But if you would like to be involved, please get in touch. If you want to do something similar in your country, please get in touch. We'd love to hear from you.
Hello everyone, good day to you all. I am Mahua Tasmin presenting a talk on rooting the gender polarity in computer science, a study on women in computer science in education in Bangladesh. With me, I have two of my co-authors, Dr. Nova Ahmed and Ms. Tamanna Mutahar. In this presentation, we'll cover a retrospective view of female CS students' journey continuing to her professional scope, the concurrent challenges and how we can overcome it. The study is a qualitative research conducted through semi-structured interviews. The major findings include gender disparity in computer science education in Bangladesh, real-life stories of inspiration and struggles, and how to pave the better future for women in CS. The story of the study will be narrated from the viewpoint of Anika, a final year student of CS major enrolled at a private local university of Bangladesh. Anika belongs from a middle class family and she dreams to be a leader in tech at some point of her career. Anika has experienced some unique circumstances being a female student. To begin with, her female classmates were always lower than 25% at her classes. The facts state that the CS enrollment at Bangladesh have a 1:4 gender ratio. The percentage drastically reduces at females participating at competitive programming contests. Anika finds out that less than 1% of female employees of tech industry are involved with core technical works. Also, the lack of female icons or at academia and industry is quite oddly visible. In the background study, the background research reveals some core factors. The social and systematic obstacles, those include gender violence, child marriage, seat limitation at public university that forces to pursue costly study at private university. Gender-based inequality at workplace educational institutions are also one of the prime reasons. Women are most times found to be the only women to be in the discussion table. The career growth is stagnant compared to male counterparts. Lack of support and understanding from fellow colleagues and family makes the journey even more difficult for mothers and women in a repressive household mostly. So Anika went out to explore the percentage of women in ACM ICPC finals from Bangladesh, where the event has been taking place from 1997. Till today, no female participant has been recorded to attend the finals. At 2019, only 5 out of 179 teams participating at local event of ACM ICPC Dhaka were found to be led by females. Anika found herself an unique opportunity to participate at first inter-university girls programming contest held at 2018. The contest maintained international standards, also allowed the parents and guardians of the contestants to be present in the premises. The research data collection started from this contest. Total 15 participants were interviewed from both programming contestants and general female CS students. Also, few parents and guardians were interviewed. The participants were selected to cover the diverse region of urban and suburban cities and rural area, public and private universities. The study had been conducted in 2 phases of 2018 and 2019. Here we are viewing the demographic variance of the participants and as well as the parents. The study questionnaire included points about years of involvement, family roles, quality of education, university support, personal and professional experience. The study data has been analyzed through thematic and qualitative process and later correlated with demographic status. The findings reflect that the major deciding factors lie on family outlook and social concern. Socio-cultural position of the family, guardians, mindset, and economic standard differentiates between the progress of female students belonging from different classes. Existing social disparity and violence against women are principal concerns for the families to raise security bars for the daughters, wives, and sisters. The competitive program participants shared that the balance between study, programming practice, and social barriers are crucial for any female enthusiast. The suburban city's infrastructure creates difficulty in communication and transportation, which is why the family restrictions are harder in those regions. Here's a quote from a research participant stating the reason behind scarcity of female contestants. Most of my peers' families don't even recognize as something important. They just want them to go to university and study too. The universities are often found to be ignorant of the necessities to adjust female in CS students to co-curricular activities as necessary as programming practice. There is no separate call for girls to have special sessions or teaching. Here are 2 quotes from amazing mothers who continue to support their daughters despite the social pressure, where they are talking about that they have continued to support their daughter's dream despite their family and social barriers. And one of them shared that programming is her hobby as well, so she dreams to bring up a technology company by both her daughter and herself. What can we do for Anika? To change the discourse of Anika and thousands of students like her, let us reflect on what we can achieve to improve the situation. Expected key actors to make the educational professional journey for females smoother are the government, academic and professional institutions and the families, where they can bring changes in the socio-cultural thought process and begin patronizing female CS students. Enthusiastic passion of female students are crucial to convince their parents so that their parents will help to push social barriers and support them. The government needs to ensure safer society for girls, ensure application of proper law and order. The academic institutions are expected to recognize the achievements of female students for participating in research activities like seminar and, and programming works. Focused activities like talks are an effective way to eradicate the internal dilemma laid in students' minds and to encourage them. The encouraging role models can also come and hold meet and greet session with the female students to inspire them for a reliable professional future. Thanks to everyone for your time and attention. Looking forward to attending questions from you all. Have a good day.
Hello, my name is Natsuko Uchida. Our presentation title is Introductory Programming Education with PBL for Women's Liberal Arts University. In Japan, programming education in elementary school started in April 2020, and programming education has been positioned as compulsory education. However, there is no required curriculum in higher education, and each university is educating by its own curriculum. Therefore, in women's schools that do not include IT majors such as Ferris University, students will go out into the world without having the opportunity to learn programming. Nowadays, programming education has become a learning environment for everyone. However, today's college students go out into the world without the opportunity to learn. We consider it better to make learning environments to keep until going out into the real world. We have another problem, such as humanities or science and gender issues. We have two major categories in Japanese school. We called Bunkei and Rikei. Students choose the course category at the high school level. The number of Bunkei universities is bigger than Rikei universities. Bunkei students have limited opportunity to learn about computers. Also, due to unconscious gender bias, science has become distant from women. For example, girls are not good at mathematics, or computers and robots are for boys. However, there is a limit to the number of problems that engineers can solve alone, and it will be necessary for a diversity people to be involved in solving these problems. Therefore, engineers and non-engineers must understand each other and work together. For various people to share their knowledge and build a better society. So basic IT knowledge is important. We have following three missions. This slide shows the concept of course design. This is the flow of the curriculum we have designed. In the first half of the course, we focus on the control structure and abstraction. In the second half of the course, 3 to 4 students work as a team. They draw not only pictures but also design a commercialized nail stickers and t-shirts. In this way, even beginners can learn the basics of programming and an overview of the software development. In the beginning, there is a lot to learn, think about, and work on at the same time, and it can be difficult for a novice. However, the drawing materials are easy to understanding visually, and the students adapt to them by helping each other and their classmates. Throughout the 15 lessons, students will learn how to write code, share data, make documents, and presentation. This is a part of the teaching materials. The output is PPM file, so students need to convert it to a JPEG or a GIF file. The conversion process is complicated for a novice, but it will help students understand the file structure. This slide is one of the works from the practice in 2019. The team divides the picture into different parts and assigns roles to them. Integrate the resulting parts into a graphic library for use at the other factors. In this way, students can understand the importance of data structures and experience team building and project management, such as understanding their own responsibilities and others. We introduce our idea and practice of introductory programming education for non-IT students. Now, technology alone cannot solve many problems, and various people must work together. Through our curriculum, the students have gained a deeper understanding that IT knowledge is essential for their work. Even if they do not become engineers, they can work together with engineers. If you are interested in our project, please access this QR code. Thank you for your attention.
Hello everyone, I welcome you all to the ACM WAP, the celebration for the women's. Myself Anjali Gupta, I'm presently working as an assistant professor in Computer Science and Engineering Department, CMR Institute of Technology, Bangalore, India. So the title of my work is Recruiting and Retaining Women in Undergraduate Computing Majors. So basically this work is focused about different recommendations, how to recruit the most women in the computing domains and how to retain them. That is the main problem that we used to face in India. So in this work, I recommended different methods for increased female selection in undergraduate computing measures. So what are those different methods that I'll discuss in the coming slides? So the findings are based on recent and ongoing research in the gender gap. So I referred most of the papers from the IIT graduates. So how they are finding out that how to retain women in the computing domains, and most of the suggestions offered here can improve the educational environment for both male and female students. But our concern in this particular work or the presentation is for the female students. So however, general improvements are likely to be particular benefit to women because women in our society, mostly in India, what I face is they do not particularly receive the same level of support than men receive for entering and persisting in this computing field. Parents and friends and classmates also mostly encourage women to choose and continue in the computing discipline. So very few parents in India, we saw that they motivate or they encourage their children to go in the computing domains. So those few women who declare a computing major tend to experience continued lack of support throughout their education. They have few female colleagues to call on for help. This lack of support can block or weaken women's commitment to computing. So actively recruiting women into the major area is the single most effective means of increasing female participation in computing programs. So it has twofold benefits. So number one is we can recruit more number of women. What are the recommendations for those? And second one is how to retain them. So a program facilitates that crucial peer support that all computing candidates need. So what are the computing majors? So there are different computing majors in computer science and IT that we can say as a blooming field. So number one is computer programming, databases, data mining, data management, how to manage the data. Like in a recent times, you see that COVID data, there's a huge amount of data, how to manage that particular data. So there are a number of job opportunities in that field: network engineering, software engineering, web development, machine learning, data science, artificial intelligence. So these are the few topics which are blooming in the computer science computing domain. So recruiting women, so there are few different recommendations from my side what I uh, uh, gone through different research papers. So work with higher secondary teachers, like if a student is coming from the 12th standard, so we need to find out or do some kind of survey like in which domain particular student is interested. If he or she is interested in engineering, then we can guide them like engineering, or if she's choosing the computing domain, if she's choosing the electrical, if she's choosing the mechanical or manufacturing domain. So what are the job opportunities for that? Because in India the students lack in all such activities. They don't know if they are opting the computer science and engineering, what are the opportunities they have on the, with respect to jobs. If they are opting for electrical engineering, what are the job opportunities they have. Use role models to actively recruit HSC higher secondary students. Like we have different startup CEOs who are women in the society. So we can uh, ask them to give some kind of guest lecture to those higher secondary students so they will feel motivation and encouragement. Make contact with the local community, provide students with opportunities to volunteer their computing skills in service to the community. So different recommendations with respect to retaining them: maintain a stable faculty, provide female role models. So as I discussed in the recruiting women also, so provide female role models. So there are different role models, women role models in India or outside India as well. We can ask them to give some kind of lectures or some kind of guest lectures to provide or to encourage our students in India. Women in academic engineering. So you can see this graph. So in this women with respect to men, you can see that computing science and engineering, this is basically the survey of 2018. So this work presented engineering by the numbers American Society for Engineering Education. So these are different branches. You can see the women and men ratio in computer science and this third one, computer science engineering. So women's participation is very less with respect to the men. So engineering faculty by discipline and gender. So what is the conclusion which I presented is the most important message offered here in my work is the female underrepresentation in computer science is not an intractable gender difference. Departments can have a significant impact on underrepresentation through recruitment and retention of women at the undergraduate level. Outstanding results have been achieved by implementing recommendations. So there are different recommendations which I discussed as key points of how to retain them and how to recruit most women in the computing majors. That is our main objective. With thought and commitment, we can recreate these accomplishments in many computing departments until women participation in the discipline reaches an equitable level. So thank you so much for your time, and you can go through my whole work in the paper. Thank you so much.
Hi everybody, my name is Eva Cheng and I'm the Director of the UTS Women Engineering and IT program. I'm here with my colleague Dr. Marco Angelini here today to tell you a bit more about our primary school outreach program called STEM Crossplay. So what are the barriers to girls and women participating in STEM in Australia? Well, in 2019, the Australian federal government released a Women in STEM Decadal Plan, which identified some of the key barriers to women and girls participating. And what we're focusing on is earlier barriers. And this means 6 key barriers that you can see on the slide as to why we see girls dropping out of STEM studies even as early as primary school. So this is why we started early. STEM Crossplay is a primary school outreach program, and on the slide you can see some of the main pillars of our program design. Firstly, the early exposure in primary school, but also that we're in the classroom working with teachers and making sure that our STEM content is aligned to the curriculum. We make sure that we bring in our university student facilitators and also industry volunteers as project mentors to have the active role modelling inside the classroom, working with the teachers and the students together. And from the name of the program, you'll see that it is a STEM cross-play, which means that we're introducing the play elements into the STEM learning, which is very much around creativity, experimentation, and hands-on learning. We also engage families into our program because the research has shown that families are a major influencer in how girls choose their study and career pathways.
Hello, I'm Marco Angelini. The STEM cross-play program takes a whole school approach in terms of engagement. We start working with schools at an early stage with facilitation and briefing events, some training events for teachers, and then once we get into classrooms, the program takes 6 weeks to develop its design thinking approach from design all the way through to prototype and showcase. We use student facilitators who go into the schools to work with schools as mentors and role models, and we also bring in industry volunteers into the schools, which are a really exciting part of the program for teachers and students. It takes about 1 to 2 weeks to think through the design thinking process, where we get students to unpack their ideas and to develop projects of their own. And throughout the process, families are engaged throughout with some material from us on how to engage their children at home and to sustain those conversations about STEM and careers and their orientations for the future. The program was piloted in 2019 with 5 different schools and 18 teachers. This was very successful, and we learned a great deal from that pilot, and were able to improve the program in 2020 when we rolled it out to 12 different schools. We were able to engage over 1,600 students and 41 teachers in stage 3 primary schools. And this involved about half the student population being girls, and we were able to map out their engagement with the program with pre and post-activity surveys,
as well as focus groups and particular STEM drawings. In terms of our approach to evaluation, we take very much a whole school approach again. We're engaging families in post-activity surveys, as well as engagement throughout the program with material and images and suggestions for how they can talk to their students through digital platforms. The students and the teachers are evaluated in pre-activity and post-activity surveys through focus groups, and the students get to draw what they consider to be their image of STEM professionals at the start and at the end of the project, so we can see how that trajectory has gone in terms of their own perceptions of what a STEM professional is. We take a longitudinal approach to evaluation so that we can track students throughout their careers through school and hopefully into high school. And this is done through our school hubs, where students use a unique reference for themselves in their surveys for the primary part of their work, and when they go on to high schools in their local hub areas, they will be using the same unique references for their evaluations, so that when they hopefully do the kinds of activities that we are engaging with in the local high schools, we'll be able to track their experiences there as well.
So this slide shows a summary of one of the outcomes that we measured in 2019. And you can see from the graph there are some gender differences in how boys and girls participated in the program, and also the change in their interests before and after the program. So there's a significant interest in girls in terms of building and problem solving, but there was a negative shift in boys' interest, and this is possibly due to the overrating of the boys' interest prior to the program. Another way of recording outcomes is through the qualitative feedback, and also in the drawings of STEM professionals. So on the right hand side we have the drawing a pre-program, where there are some stereotypes shown in the diagram, where you can see that STEM professionals are sometimes perceived to be highly intelligent and perhaps a little bit strange. But post-program, in the bottom left hand corner, there's a diagram of a more realistic STEM professional, and that's the kind of perceptions that we're trying to change in the program.
In 2020, like other programs who do similar kinds of work, we faced the challenge of COVID-19 and adapting our work with schools to suit the circumstances and to suit their ability to invite outside researchers and facilitators in. So what we were able to do is to adapt and develop our type of delivery to a blended model, where student facilitators would be zooming in to the schools, and classroom teachers would do a little bit more of the hands-on facilitation work. This involved us really delving into the material again and redeveloping the content and our approach for teachers, so as to engage the students in very different ways. It worked very well across the 3 schools in which we were able to do this. We were able to have industry volunteers coming into the classrooms through Zoom again, along with our facilitators, and it also led us to develop an intensive 2-day model for delivery of the program, where instead of running the program over the course of short periods over 6 weeks, we would go into a school and deliver the program over 2 full days of the school schedule, and using this kind of blended model.
The impact evaluation of our 2020 program is still underway, because we only finished the program in late December. But what you see on this slide is an initial analysis and some preliminary findings of the increase in girls' confidence in terms of engineering and problem solving. But more of the impact will be available as soon as we complete our evaluation. From the 2019 pilot and scaling the program in 2020 and into 2021, on the slide here are a few of our learnings that we'd like to share with the community on some of the challenges that we've faced, but also some of the changes that we'd like to implement to ensure that we increase the impact, but also the collaboration with other universities and industry to broaden the reach of this long-term change that we'd wish to see. So we'd love to hear from you, and we're always open to a chat for collaboration, so please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Thank you for watching.
We care for your digital well-being. Please close your eyes for about 20 seconds. Let me count it down for you. 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now open your eyes and please focus on an object, preferably 20 feet away. Thank you. Now, let us continue with our event program.
Access denied.
Great job!
Amazing!
Neat job!
ACM Women's of Asia Pacific supports, celebrates, and advocates internationally for women's full participation in all areas of computing, supplying ACM participants with a range of initiatives and resources, and collaborating in the border sector to advance the efforts of technical women. Join ACMW's celebration that aims to bring together women from industry, education, and research to share ideas and experiences.
Thank you for listening to the presentations of selected abstracts. We hope that you learned a thing or two from the studies.
If you have questions for the authors of the presented studies, please raise them on the Q&A section and the authors will answer your queries during the after plenary activity.
Now it is time for the ACM Women Rising Star and Shining Star awarding. These awards recognize a women whose early career research has had a significant impact on the computing discipline, as measured by factors such as various citation to their work, creation of a new research area, a high degree of technology transfer, and other positive influences and societal impact.
With that in mind, let's welcome our Chair of Shining and Rising Star Awards, Dr. Bimlesh Wadhwa.
Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to bring the Shining Star and Rising Star Awards of ACMW Asia Pacific Celebration 2021 to you. It is an initiative of ACMW Asia Pacific Committee to recognize women with significant work and impact in Asia Pacific region. This year, nominations were invited by the celebration committee members. We designed two kinds of awards: Shining Star for women of eminence with 5 to 10 years or more of experience in the field of work, and Rising Star for graduate or PhD students or someone with early career visibility in the field of computing with research or development achievements. Let me present to you the ACMW Asia Pacific Shining Star 2021. The Shining Star Award for 2021 goes to Associate Professor Catherine Lang. Dr. Catherine Lang is an outstanding researcher who has focused her work on understanding the underrepresentation of women in computing for more than 20 years. She is very well known for her work, Digital Divas Club, and has co-authored a book, Digital Divas, Putting the Wow into Computing for Girls. Congratulations, Catherine. Let me present to you the ACMW Asia Pacific Rising Stars 2021. The Rising Star for 2021 goes to Jeneline Agapito. Jeneline is an assistant professor at the Ateneo de Manila University in Philippines. She has served as a department chair of computer science at the university. She currently leads a research project on studying how schools pivoted to emergency remote teaching during COVID-19. She has several publications to her credit. Congratulations, Jeneline. The Rising Star 2021 also goes to May Talandron Philippe. May is a recent PhD graduate. She has done outstanding work in learning analytics, which has earned her a Best Overall Paper Award at the International Conference on Computers in Education 2019. She has several publications to her credit. Congratulations, May. Rising Star 2021 also goes to Maureen Villamor. Maureen teaches at the University of Southeastern Philippines. Her work on eye tracking is both rigorous and world-class. She has got a Best Paper Award at a local conference. She has several publications to her credit. Congratulations, Maureen. Rising Star 2021 also goes to Tamanna Motaha. Rising Star 2021 also goes to Tamanna Motaha. Tamanna is a lecturer in North South University in Bangladesh, and she is currently pursuing her PhD in University of Utah. She is a very bright academic and researcher and devotes her time on outreach and using technology for social good, ensuring equality and social justice for all. She was the founding faculty chair of ACMW student chapter in North South University in Bangladesh. Congratulations, Tamanna. Rising Star 2021 also goes to Fatima Yahya Alamatami. Fatima is a PhD researcher at University of Queensland, Australia. She also works as a sessional academic at Griffith University in Australia. She is currently working on a project to take an Australia educational initiative, Tech Girls, to her homeland, Saudi Arabia. The project is to inspire schoolgirls into STEM. This award is sponsored by Tech Girls Movement Foundation. Congratulations, Fatima, and thank you so much, Tech Girls Movement Foundation, for your support. And once again, my congratulations to Shining Star and Rising Stars of ACMW Asia Pacific Celebration 2021.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bimlesh, for presenting the ACM Women Rising and Shining Star Awards. Congratulations to our awardees, and may you continue to shine and inspire women in computing. Again, ladies and gentlemen, we are very much appreciative of your active participation for this event. We hope that you learned a lot from this celebration.
To wrap up, we would like to call on the celebration chair of this special event. She is a longtime researcher, educator, and also the vice president for the research and development at National University Philippines. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all welcome Dr. Rachel Adita Rojas.
Association for Computing Machinery, Women in Computing, Asia Pacific Celebration 2021. It has been 2015 when we first hosted the ACM Women in Computing Philippines. Little did we know that 6 years after, we would be hosting the first ever ACM Women in Computing Asia Pacific celebration in 2021. The humble seeds sown years ago eventually yielded a greater and wider bounty in the Asia Pacific region. In this inaugural event of the ACM Women in Computing Asia Pacific celebration, we were able to bring together women from industry, education, and research from the Asia Pacific region and beyond to share ideas and experiences in transforming computing towards a future that we want to build. On behalf of the ACM Women in Computing Asia Pacific Committee, and of course our co-hosts for this celebration, the National University, Manila, Philippines, and of course the Computing Society of the Philippines Special Interest Group on Women in Computing, I express my thanks to our co-hosts and co-organizers of this celebration. I also express my gratitude for the support of our global organization, the ACM Women in Computing, and the other regional chapters of the ACM Women in Computing. We appreciate the support, the mentoring, the advice, and the guidance as we organize this inaugural event in the Asia Pacific region. On behalf of the organizers, I would like to firstly thank our esteemed keynote speakers for sharing their expertise and experiences in this celebration. Dr. Ming Zhang, professor from Peking University, China. Ms. Frey Sangel, founder and CEO of Layer Tech Software Labs Incorporated, Philippines. Dr. Nova Ahmed, Associate Professor of the North-South University, Bangladesh. To you, we express our thanks. Of course, to our program committee, who reviewed our abstract submissions led by Dr. Bimlesh Wadwa from the National University of Singapore and assisted by Ms. Jacqueline Tate from Australia as Vice Chair. Thank you for the hard work. To all those who submitted their abstracts, thank you for participating in this event. To our abstract presenters, to our poster presenters, in the different celebration tracks, thank you for contributing your time, talents, and treasures towards the success of this event. We're happy that our authors hail from diverse backgrounds and countries such as Australia, Bangladesh, China, India, Japan, Philippines, and the US. Congratulations too is in order to our ACM Women in Computing Asia Pacific Shining Star and Rising Star awardees. And of course, to our untiring, creative, hardworking technical team of faculty members and students led by Dean Arlene Trillanes of the College of Computing and Information Technologies of National University, Manila, Philippines. Thank you for your valuable contribution to this celebration. Last but not the least, of course, we thank you, our participants, for gracing this event. It is noteworthy to say that we have representations from various continents, including Africa, Asia, and North America. So where do we go from here? We shall strive to continue with our advocacy in transforming computing for a better future. We hope to see you in our next undertakings in the Association for Computing Machinery, Women in Computing Asia Pacific. Thank you and good day.
Thank you very much, Doc Rachel. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up our day. Unfortunately, everything good must come to an end.
But before we formally end this live session, I would just like to inform the participants that the afterpreneur activity will still continue after this live event. Please head over to the website ACMWAP 2021 national-u.edu.ph to browse the selected research posters, watch the remaining video presentations, and post your questions from the keynote speeches.
On behalf of the National University Philippines, we would like to thank you all for making time in your busy schedules to join us today. Please give us feedback by accomplishing the exit survey. The link is available in the event website, and the survey will run until 4 p.m. today, Manila time. Thank you very much, and see you at the next ACM Women in Computing Asia Pacific celebration.
Again, this is Joseph Imperial.
And this is Midette Abisado.
We are now signing off.
Mahal namin kayo.
Stay safe, everyone.
Bye.
Goodbye.